like ZZ Top or Guns. They're quite friendly. But it was just a bizarre event. Have we got any more pictures there?
Yep, we do.
Oh, thank you. So you can see my telescope set up there, and it worked fairly well. And there's other people with varying degrees of equipment and so forth. But I think the other important thing to discuss here is the proper attire for an eclipse. And these two guys, they were, oh golly, I don't know where I could get a suit like that. But they're quite prepared for the event. And I think that's one of the most enjoyable things about going to an organized event for an eclipse is the camaraderie. And these guys, I didn't know them. They didn't know me, but we got along great. We were talking about all kinds of stuff. There were other fellows that sat up near me and we just talked and talked and talked. It was, even though the actual eclipse event wasn't great, the fact that we got to socialize and meet other people with similar outlooks on life, and it was quite enjoyable to do that. So I'm very pleased that we went, even though it wasn't perfect. There's a couple of the pictures I took that's sort of a artsy-fartsy kind of thing there with the almost totality. And I got a lot better pictures in 2017 in Casper, Wyoming with, and that was through partial cloud. So it didn't work well. And even with better processing, it didn't come out very well either. So anyways, that's all I got. And I think it's important for your next eclipse that you go to some event, because if the skies don't cooperate, at least you'll have a great time with other people who are there for the same darn reason. Thank you.
Or okay, but just to get rid of that banner.
5 minutes, eh?
Yeah.
Hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, well, I was the guy standing next to Damon in Mazatlan, and he covered most of that stuff.
You press 3.
Press 3.
3 to make the, yeah, I know. Press 3 to make it go forward.
Page down another.
Yeah.
So this is that hotel rooftop he was mentioning. It was fantastic. It's like I don't know, a golfing green on a roof and 20 stories up. And you can see the weather was not perfect, but acceptable. It was actually quite nice. And yeah, we were wandering around on the rooftop. You can see my rig. I did have a pointer somewhere. Oh, there it is. Was very minimal. I just had a DSLR and a 200mm zoom lens, and the objective I was after was not to take the traditional eclipse picture, because I knew that, well, the guy standing next to me, but everybody else on the planet was taking the same picture pretty much. So I decided I'd try to do something called flash spectra. And what that is, it looks, oh, no, that's my wife. So there's Marie and I. I'm standing in front of Mazatlan. You can see Mazatlan is a wonderful place. We actually managed to go twice, you know, on the excuse we had to scout for the eclipse the first year. So we went to Carnival in February 2023. And then, of course, we went in April for the eclipse, which you can see the Malecon of Mazatlan, and all of the new hotels are all building, and a beautiful view of, we were actually in an area called Avenue Playa Gaviotas, which is in the Golden Zone in Mazatlan. It's beautiful, beautiful place, great city for walking around. We did a lot of walking, so we plunked ourselves right in the area where you want to walk around, and we spent most of our trip walking around, but we happen to have during the trip as well. So that's my rig right there, and that's Damon's Kijiji. Right there. So obviously we were enjoying the eclipse together with my wife and his wife and Damon and I. So it was a nice experience to have a friend right there. So this is a flash spectra, and what I did is I put something called a SA100 star analyzer, diffraction grating. I made a little 3D printed adapter for my camera lens, and what it does is it takes, when you take an image, you've got a 0 order image, which is the actual whatever you're taking a picture of, which in this case is the eclipse sun, just at C3 with the chromosphere starting to poke out this side. And you'll get a first order spectrum off to the side. And unfortunately, I managed to mess up my focus while I was changing filters, so it isn't totally in focus, so it's a bit of an experiment, I guess. But what you see here is actually these curved lines are actually the spectral lines of the sun. And you can see the hydrogen alpha line, you can see the hydrogen beta line, helium lines. And as a matter of fact, that's coming from the chromosphere, but you can see actually from, well, you can't see very well on this one, but you can actually see the different prominences as well, were quite striking, and those are basically hydrogen and helium lines of spectrum. Hey, what a surprise, there's hydrogen and helium in the sun, wow, right? But what was interesting is you can actually see some fairly strong ferric lines, like iron, and that's coming actually from the chromosphere, or I should say the corona. So we actually get, a fairly strong green. If it was more in focus, hopefully you could get a few lines. So this was the picture I was hoping to get. It wasn't exactly as detailed as I'd like it to be, but I guess next time I go to an eclipse, first of all, it's a reason to go to another eclipse, and I'll do better. So it's kind of exciting to take a different picture and have it mostly turn out. And also took a picture right at C3 when you had the diamond ring effect coming out of it. So you can see the continuous spectrum of the sun. And again, this was a bit of an experiment. Probably I would, well, one, focus it properly, and two, have a much shorter exposure. But yeah, it was fun to try it, and mostly I took a few pictures and then sat back and enjoyed the eclipse. And at one point I remember standing with Damon saying, I'm starting to tear up. And he said, I think he said, yeah, I've been there. So, and thank you very much.
Over to you.
Okay, and where's the F3 thingy?
Oh, it's number 3 down.
Okay,
I don't know why.
yeah, I didn't travel out to go see the eclipse. I guess I saw one as a kid through a beer bottle. We shouldn't do that. Didn't know back then. I like to share things with people because people have always helped me out. So I do enjoy doing outreach when I have a chance. So this is just a bit of my volunteer experience at the Leaf. So I recently got this Dwarf 2 scope as an outreach tool, also just for fun. These robotic telescopes are kind of cool, but I think a lot of them are overpriced, but the Dwarf and the Sea Star I think are about a good range for a decent, a worthwhile scope. So it's a lot of fun, and in fact, every chance I get, every day I take a picture of the sun from the rooftop of my car. Just stick it on top, in 2 minutes I have a picture. So the clouds weren't very helpful, but I still had a lot of fun. So this is just the scope set up on the table, and there's the planetarium Dobsonian right next to it. So the dwarf, its shape and the fact that I'm sitting on my phone looking at these images was enough to attract people, and they would ask questions, and even kids would go, "Oh, cool, what is that?" And then you sucker them in and then talk about the sun. Most common question I had asked was, what were sunspots? So I would end up repeating that answer. So here you can see a sunspot that was there. Also, I'm still getting used to this, so didn't have great pictures until near the end. I remember Judy had shown me what to do with it one day, and I forgot that, and I put it on autofocus, and then like near the end of the eclipse, I go, oh, I'm supposed to adjust these settings. So I could have had more nice pictures, but still pretty good. And also, I was showing people how to take pictures with their phones because they didn't realize you could take pictures of the sun with your phone. It's okay if it's cloudy, but if it's clear, it just washes out your camera. Although under certain weather conditions, you can still take a picture. But you also have the glasses, and you could just put them over. And one person actually had a thing for the phone that you could hold over, and they got some pretty good pics. I chose this one because I kind of like the thick cloud and then the thing hiding by the side. And I used my iPhone 14 Pro as a demo. So all in all, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. This is Find Michelle. Where's Michelle? But you can see my dwarf right here. And I would walk around with my camera and show people in these long lineups that go, look, hey, the sun, that'd be cool. You know, and said it's live. It's from over there, that tiny thing on the table. I think the only thing is near the end, it started bouncing the table. I'm like, why is my picture of the sun doing this? But yeah, so I had a lot of fun. That's all I got.
Great, Michelle, thanks. James. So James and his son are out of town, but he asked me to present his slides. He thought it would be interesting. His son, they spent 10 days in the Dallas area playing some golf, taking some basketball, etc., and the eclipse. They fought cloudy skies in the northeast, but managed to catch first and second contact and 3 minutes and 31 seconds of totality, making 100 new friends in the process. Top floor of the hotel's parkade. I just love how these pop-up parties happen. He says the whole trip was amazing and kicked off by a visit from CBC Manitoba, literally an hour before we began our adventure. So he sent me the link to that, and I'll play it now if it works. Here we are. Oh, Janet, you're not talking to us. So is there an audio feed on it? There isn't? Oh,
Let me, maybe we can hear it on the machine. It might be loud enough here.
I can put the mic beside it.
Yeah, let's just try that.
A solar eclipse is set to roll through Mexico, the US, and Canada Monday. Here in Manitoba, it'll be a partial eclipse. We'll start to see the sun with a big bite taken out of it by the moon just before 1 p.m. and it'll end shortly after 3 p.m. Tonight, CBC's Gavin Axelrod looks at how Manitobans are getting ready, including one man who's heading out of town to see the event in its full form.
You cannot look at the sun, naked eye. You'll do damage.
The wait is almost over for James Bass. He's an astronomy lover. With telescope and binoculars in tow, he's off to Dallas for the total eclipse.
To see the darkness come in the middle of the day, to see stars and planets come out, maybe even see a comet just next to the sun. That'll be pretty special. I think it'll be overwhelming.
This is the first time he'll see a total eclipse in real life. He even booked his hotel room last year.
I can't really imagine what it's going to be like.
People in Manitoba will see a partial eclipse here at home. And Winnipeg students are also getting ready. At Rockwood School, they're having lunch together in the gym before dancing the afternoon away and watching the eclipse online.
It feels very special to see something so, well, crazy, having the moon go over the sun.
The province warns looking at the eclipse can damage your eyes if you're not taking proper precautions. So at the school, they're playing it safe.
Since we're having a partial eclipse, our eyes don't understand that because it looks it doesn't look bright, but even though it is, and it can trigger our eyesight, so we're going to be staying inside most of the day.
The province says not to use homemade filters to catch the event, and says one of the safest ways is to watch online. For those looking to be outside, a viewing party with this specialized equipment is happening at Assiniboine Park.
That's gonna be it.
As for FAST, he hopes to document the experience for those who won't see the total eclipse. He plans to share photos and video. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
I thought it was interesting that an eclipse experience can be an interview. You know, people have tried to interview us from the site, wherever we are, and most of the time it doesn't work. And he had the advantage of being able to tape the interview before they left. So they had a great adventure, and they saw totality, and he's just shared this with us. So I think I have to get, oh dear, did I do something wrong?
Want to go back to the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sit there. I just
Okay.
wanna- Okay, great.
That should work. Okay, Mark's up next. Thank you, James, if you see this.
Here too. But that'll work.
More?
Just the videos. I can send those.
Oh, well, we'll see. Am I cutting you off at 5 minutes?
You're gonna, yeah, like everybody else.
Press 3 to forward it.
All right.
I don't know why.
Okay. All right, well, this was my second, as Damon had mentioned. I'm old enough to have experienced the 1979 eclipse here in Winnipeg in February. Not as pleasant a place to witness an eclipse as it was this year. It's been a few years between. My equipment is very rudimentary. You can tell it's basically a Polari tracker, and I converted a filter that I used, or one of the filters I used for my binoculars, to cover a 72 millimeter, 300 millimeter zoom. So it was mostly at 300. You can see the eclipse picture on my little panel there for the camera. I can't be witnessing an eclipse from Mazatlan, I don't think. And with palm trees, sand, and beach life. So that was the fortunate part. And I was also very fortunate to have been invited along with 2 other RASC members, Stan Runge and Mike Caracas. They mentioned it last summer, and very gingerly said, you might be able to get in because we suspect it's going to be very, very popular and booked up. My wife and I were able to actually get on the same excursion, same resort, and lucked out, and we ended up down there for a week in a resort, witness the eclipse, and a green patch, which was quite nice as well. These are just some of the images I captured. It was quite high. There's quite a bit of cloud, not dense cloud, but kind of annoying high clouds that just destroy the corona. And I worked with pictures for a long time trying to get some corona to come out. But this was our group. There was a few of us down there, as it turned out. Sean Caesar with his 2 sons, Stan and Lorraine, and Mike and Tammy, myself and my wife Roland. And this was just some of the kind of rudimentary pictures I took.
There. Does that help? Lorraine hasn't changed since Sky Grayer.
This was the hotel we stayed in. Again,
Oh.
We weren't roughing it. And there was some beverages, you know, a few things to have that were very handy along the way. This one, that kind of shows you what we were dealing with as far as the cloud level. It's kind of interesting to see the colors, but it just kind of ruined the corona. I tried to pull corona out of the clouds there, pretty tough. And then as far as the actual experience of sitting under the full eclipse, you can see the lights on in like the toilet, the bathrooms, and so on. I mean, that's how dark it was. I mean, you could actually, it was like night. And you can see Venus off to the right here on this picture. Now, had there been less cloud, like Damon and some others were mentioning, there would have been a comet to the left that we would have seen. But like I said before, I don't think you can beat witnessing an eclipse with palm trees and sand and beach. It's pretty nice. I think that's it for me.
You want to put your videos?
Depends how much time we have left.
Well, I can keep.
Okay. It just registered, okay. See what I can find here. The mouse is. Okay. Is it?
Better leave it in.
No, that's. We go backwards.
Chris's. Oh,
That's Chris.
where are you now? Way off. Just
Control.
tab.
And we can find our way back.
Is it this?
Downloads.
No. You have to go
Here. We don't want to see the budget, right?
No,
Okay.
please.
Oh, come on. Sorry, guys. Time for one video?
Yeah.
Little bit of excitement. This is my wife taking the picture here. Or the video. Well, that was it. Okay, one more shot. I think the little bit again. They are short, yeah. Okay. Sorry to take up more time. I was more klutzy with this. It's the beach again. I wasn't really thrilled with putting my camera over sand. Some people didn't mind. And that's kind of just a short glimpse of what we experienced in that particular location. So thanks very much, folks. Yeah, but take us back where we belong.
I have no idea. I might have actually, there it is.
Over here. Okay, we can tab down through that. I saw Chris's name next. Just hit the speaker there and just turn it off. Yep, good.
Welcome. So 3 is down.
All right, so this was my second attempt on an eclipse. First one was in August 2017. Although we were standing in the shadow of the eclipse, we missed it totally because for the 3 minutes of the eclipse, or 2 minutes and a half, which we have, or 2, there was just a one cloud came over and covered our eclipse in 2017. So I wasn't really thinking about this year eclipse. When my daughter actually called me about a month before, I was that day before the last meeting in March, and she says, "Oh, there is the eclipse happening," and she lives in Ottawa. So I kind of says, "Well, but what is the chance for us?" It's like 75% chance of clouds. And she goes like, "Well, yeah, that, but there is also 25% chance for being able to see it." So she convinced me. Next day, we booked the tickets to Ottawa. And we made a trip to Ottawa on April 4th. We arrived to Ottawa in a snowstorm. However, I have one question to Jay. Is there different storm for different cities in environment Canada? Because in Winnipeg is really a snowstorm. In Ottawa, it was a wet snow and a pretty strong wind, but nothing like snowstorm, I know. So anyway, we arrived in a snowstorm in Ottawa, but I was still checking the weather predictions and I said, everything showing that it's gonna be okay. And it's gonna be okay, and we're gonna travel to Magog in Quebec. Okay, the day before, on April 7th, we travel from Ottawa to Montreal, and we park in Montreal for a day, enjoy Montreal and so on. And then we made a trip next morning from Montreal to Magog. It's about an hour, 20 minutes drive. So my couple of pictures here are just on the shores of the lake in Magog. There were probably, I have only 2 pictures of this because I was limited with few pictures. So there were probably about 1,000 people, if not more, there, all around. I have more pictures, so when we go to Boston Pizza, we can share some others. Anyway, so this was the first when we arrived there, and we kind of walked, but we actually have a host in Magog, which is my daughter's boyfriend's father living there. So this was just by total coincidence, because I was just thinking of Magog because Magog was the closest to the certain line of eclipse. Okay, and eclipse was about 3 minutes and 29 seconds at that time, at that location. So anyway, so this is basically where people on this beach, where people were just set up and we're just waiting for eclipse, and we were just kind of going like, well, let's see where the people are setting up. And here, eclipse already is started the whole show. It started, so here me and my wife, and also there is me kind of showing the other tricks, why to watch the one eclipse when you can have so many of them. And okay, so there's the picture of eclipse. I didn't take any pictures of the eclipse. I went there to see it, not to do anything with the camera, telescope, or anything like this. This is the picture my daughter took. It's on a Samsung S24 with the 10-time magnification, like digital magnification, which I found it pretty amazing what she got it out of that phone. The other one, there is a on the left, there is a picture taken with the iPhone 14. You can also see the Venus at the bottom on that picture, and some little artifacts from a lens, I guess. And there is another picture of the eclipse, also iPhone 14, and we can see the lights came on when the eclipse was in full, and also there is a Jupiter above on the top left. So as I was watching this eclipse, tears were actually running my cheeks. I was really emotional. It was a beautiful view. We didn't have any problems. You can see there is a little bit of clouds, but this was quite far away. Clouds probably rolled in when we were, as you can see, we were just driving back home to Montreal, and that's the clouds were just rolling in at that time. So it was really a beautiful view, a beautiful time. I would never expect that we're gonna have this kind of a clear sky. I was kind of laughing at the people who were in Mexico. And they were kind of going, oh, we had some clouds and so I'm going, see, you shouldn't go that far. However, just the last picture there on the right with the vehicle. Actually, this is a picture from my phone. It took us about 3 hours to get to Montreal from our location in McDowell. It was just horrible. We were just crawling. Probably on a bicycle would be going faster than on the car. This was just like a lineup of vehicles on both lanes. And it was 10 meters forward, stop, 10 meters forward, stop, and so on. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, I think we should be taking a break anytime now, right? Yeah. So Mike will start us off when we come back from the break. What should we say? 20 minutes or 15 minutes? 15 minutes? Thanks, Chris.
I forgot to bring it, but I wasn't sure if you guys were coming tonight or not, and I had it by the door, and then there you go, there's some star maps. That's where the star that's going to explode is. I have a book that I found that I think is going to be awesome for you guys. It's 50 first things to look at with the telescope. And yeah, someone sent it to me as a review copy. I read through it and it's not bad. And so you guys are welcome to it.
We'd love that.
Yeah, sure. Next time, well, are you coming to the observatory tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I will spy the one and I walk right past on the way here. But I will bring it to you.
Hey, how you doing? You have, okay, I guess the next one is, practice. You've been having all kinds of issues tonight, as you can tell. Yeah, I guess Mike's up next. Are you doing a segment on this too?
No.
Oh, okay.
I thought it'd be enough pictures, let everyone else.
Yeah.
Michelle already did the public event, so. Yeah, you'll find my pictures on the Facebook page.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I try to do that live. So.
Yeah. I didn't really do much of the pictures. I was in meetings today. I stepped outside on the back deck and whipped off a picture through some eyewear and it was just it actually turned out pretty well.
I did the what's the name of the event, right? Yeah, I took my phone and the little solar glasses, right?
Yeah.
Zoom in and try to take a picture.
It's amazing.
It works. If you get it just right, it'll work.
That event, it had really good turnout.
Oh yeah. That's what I was trying to do. I thought I talked to the owners and they say, can I get up on that, without paying, right? Get up to the upper deck and try and take a picture to see how big the crowd is.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't work, but I was like, got it, but it was nice, trying to take a shot of all the people, right?
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
Good to do that. So there's Astronomy Day coming up, so.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe do that, we're going to do the white shell thing. Does Judy have enough? I was gonna maybe talk to her. The white shells. Okay. They're still on it or? I don't know. Wing was saying he has kind of iffy or something or?
I'm not too sure about the white shell. I think that's true.
Okay.
Be good to check in. Yeah, how are things at work?
So how much more do we have for?
I don't know. Judy is the one running it. Maybe we'll shoot for Boston Pizza. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll be going. I'm probably going to regret it tomorrow, but I've got a gym class at 9 o'clock. We've got a Mother's Day thing. Yeah. No, it's good. Once a month. Worth it. I enjoyed it. Really get out much. I try to get always working. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, we'll see what the forecast is. You know, I mean, I really hope that it happens at a time when somewhere it's complete, you know, like I want somebody to see it and someone 10 minutes later, or someone not to see it and someone 10 minutes later to see it. So that we have that time, right?
The number of
Waiting for Mike to
being
come back.
reported for the atheist
Yeah. Yeah,
are
it's
just
crazy.
phenomenal.
Yeah. But
Phenomenal.
what it really shows me is that a lot of people aren't doing their coefficients and calibrations and stuff like that. They're just taking a picture, sending it in,
Or even just visual.
or visual,
Yeah.
or because there's a lot of scatter, which is okay, I guess, but because really anybody can tell the difference between the 10th magnitude and second magnitude, right?
Right. But and actually, I mean, a little bit of practice, you can pick up the 10th magnitude.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And there's a ramp before.
Mm. Well, yeah, that's true. There is a
So-
little bit of a thing. So,
Yeah, so and it hasn't happened yet.
yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was in the States, that's when I started doing most of my visual AVSO stuff. And I realized that I have really bad red sensitivity. And so like beyond average.
Okay, beyond
Yeah.
average.
Because if I used a red comparison star, like it would be like a magnitude difference from what everybody else was getting. And
Okay.
so I decided, okay, well, I'm only going to do, like, I'm not going to do long period stars because they're all red. I'm going to make sure that I'm just not using red comparison stars. And so I had to be selective. And then I kind of realized, well, all of those ones, the blue stars, they're usually the ones where they have small or the fast periods or whatever, and visual isn't best for that anyway. So I kind of thought, well, one day when I have a camera, I'll get back to it, you know, and I still do some visual stuff now and again,
Yeah.
but I do it for fun rather than for the value of the data. Although like cataclysmic variables, because it's like they're 15th magnitude and then they shoot up to 8 or whatever, that I can tell.
But I think if you want that precision, you're gonna use the camera.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I mean, I guess there's probably things that are still good for it.
Yeah, and even if you're a magnitude off, sometimes you're always a magnitude off.
Yeah.
Right. You basically just have a different.
Right, that's true, yeah.
Okay, we're going to start again, restart, Mike, you're on.
Okay. Yeah, just share the screen.
for me.
Okay, so you can hold this or
Okay.
you
Put it in, sure, yeah,
and
no worries.
3 goes forward.
3 starts in?
Yeah. It goes forward, so
Oh, just 3.
it should.
Well, so far so good.
Okay, why isn't it doing it again? Is it the left?
I don't know. Let's go to machine. Oh, this is good. That's perfect. Thank you. I guess you guys heard that a lot of people in the Mazatlan, and I guess what's the reason for why we went to Mazatlan in the first place? Well, there's a relatively unknown meteorologist named Janderson. Not sure if you heard about this guy, but he said, you know, Mike, Mazatlan has a pretty good chance for some clear sky. So we took the man's word for it and we decided to head there. And not to mention, because it is in Mexico, it's April. It's a nice time to get away for a little winter vacation too. So that's what we thought it was easy to do. Now, back when I think Stan and I started looking and researching accommodations was at least a year and a half before the eclipse started. And one thing that occurred to us when we were looking on Google Maps is Mazatlan is a metropolis. It's a big town. And there's a lot of pavement in Mazatlan. So the thought of actually being at high noon, watching the eclipse, and we thought temperatures could be really quite high. Well, really the last place we wanted to be is on pavement. We wanted to look for something different. So when we started looking, we realized there's an all-inclusive resort that offered a lot of possibilities to us. But the main one it offered to us is that there's a, not sure if you can see it in my hands here, but there's a courtyard space just in the upper right part. Oh, perfect. Yeah, there's a courtyard space right here. And that was our ideal place that we wanted to set up because there's some trees around. We can get shelter easy enough from the sun. And sure enough, it worked out perfect because as in Mark's picture, I showed you with Mark's pictures, there was a lot of people on the beach, really didn't want to get swamped by a lot of people. So the courtyard provided us a little bit of more of an intimate setting for us to have our eclipse experience together. And it turned out really, really well. We have a few notes here of myself. And, you know, we also decided to keep our equipment fairly minimal too. Looking at the Sunwing carry-on restrictions, they really were quite restrictive. I think if you had to carry a backpack carry-on, it was only limited to 11 pounds. And the thought of trying to bring camera gear and a decent telescope or a smart telescope, it easily exceed that amount. Being just the weight of a backpack itself was close to 5 pounds in itself. So we really decided to scale back our stuff. I was initially going to bring a long telephoto lens to do the work, but it just wasn't conducive for that. So we ended up going with a fairly minor setup because we really thought we'd enjoy the visual experience of the eclipse. And that's what we ended up doing. Brought a little telescope for Tammy, it was a little 62 millimeter refractor, had it on alt-as tripod mount, and Tammy, you enjoyed the experience for the entire duration of the eclipse, basically, just with that. And because we had that high fast moving cloud, I wasn't able to really accomplish what I set out to do for the eclipse, because I didn't have that long telephoto lens to get that beautiful shot of the prominences. So I decided I was going to really more focus on getting the eclipse, Jupiter, Venus, and the comet in the same shot. But that cloud cover just completely ruined that idea. So what are you going to do? Decided to just improvise with it. So this is the shot of with my Canon 5D Mark II, and it was racked out as far as I can go with a 105 millimeter lens. And again, this kind of focuses more what we were able to see as well. There was cloud cover, but it really didn't take away from the eclipse experience whatsoever. It was a really nice time. Now in this shot, I bracketed several different exposures and actually got some surface of details of the moon on this particular shot as well. And this is the last part, just last diamond ring. And this particular is one of my favorite images of the eclipse that I took. And again, you can still see the prominences because they were so, well, prominent. Really quite nice. And I think this is pretty much it in terms of the slideshow here. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy. Maybe you can speak to your experience with the eclipse. Yep.
So we'll start with the equipment. Mike was gracious enough to provide a scope for me that he said he bought just for me. Now, any of the spouses out there recognize that line, because turns out he has multiple uses for that scope.
It was a good line though. It was a good line.
So the spousal units went way up. I had something I could use, and he gets the benefit of using it again. So it's kind of like the price of a lens. Already?
Well,
I was exceptionally lucky. The guys scouted and found the best place for us. Turned out to be exactly where they thought it would be. No, actually, you moved around a bit and then found the best place.
we did.
So I kind of likened it to hunters. They went out there and they got the prize. For me, I got to sit there and look at the eclipse as it came and as it went. And I believe I was one of the few people that actually did that. Because as you heard on Mark's video from his wife, Roland, everyone was cheering and celebrating and talking about the experience while I was still glued to the telescope. This is our third eclipse, so it just keeps getting better and better. Jay had once said that it's so all-encompassing, you can't take it in. You really do have to go more than once. You really have to look at it again and again. I think the next one's in
Yeah. It's Spain.
So I have a feeling, well, I know some people are already planning for Spain. So the experience of it was incredible. You know, when it gets dark and the birds stop singing, I'm a birder. So I'm aware of the bird sounds around us. And when the finch stopped, when the grackle went quiet, I was totally aware of it. So it just added an extra dimension for me to see the Bailey's beads, the diamond coming and the diamond going. It's really quite extraordinary. So the other benefits were we traveled with Stan and Lorraine. We got to meet almost every kid on the resort as a result. As grandparents, they have kids' eyes. That was a really nice experience for us because we don't have grandchildren. And Viral Ann was our group organizer, and she was extraordinary. This was our first trip with other people, and I have to say it was extraordinary for many levels, from the eclipse to the people. And one of the disadvantages to keeping your eyes glued to the scope is we did share the images to a few people that came by, especially with their kids. I'm almost done. It was that camaraderie that was referenced earlier. And I do have to say, Chris, we didn't spend 3.5 hours in a car getting back to the place. We had a beer in our hand within 15 minutes.
Oh.
Well, and the other thing I'll say is, I know everybody wants clear skies, but when we were in Nebraska, we had some cloud, and it took my breath away. It's magical to have some cloud come across as it's happening. So for me, an absolutely clear sky might not be as beneficial as for someone like Chris, or for my photographer to my left. To me, it was simply magic.
Thank you.
So Ed, here it comes. Whoa, what happened? Okay, so three changes it forward. I don't know why.
Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. All right, so I'm Ed, and this is, I think, my first time up here in front of everyone. So this is my coming out party as an amateur astronomer. And so this is the second eclipse I've been to. I'd been to 2017 in Wyoming with my brother and my wife and my sister-in-law. And that was a wonderful experience. So we, about 1.5 years ago, started planning ahead to come to this one. And so our story really is about the journey to get there. And so as many of you were at Mazatlan, that was going to be our destination. In my other life, I teach psychology, and the eclipse was very inconveniently located in the last week of classes. And so that wasn't going to work well to go to Mazatlan and spend the kind of time you'd like to there. So plan B was going to be to go to Texas, because as everyone said, Jay said that would be a good place to go weather-wise, and that was going to be our location for up to about the week before, when the weather maps started looking pretty terrible. And we figured, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, we'll just go with it. But my brother told me he knew of a guy who had a cabin in northern New York State, and maybe we could get in there with him. And so we looked into flights to Montreal to see if that was possible. And so plan C started to emerge when we found a flight. And so by about Wednesday of the week before Eclipse Week, we had booked a flight to Montreal, abandoned the plan to go to Texas. The weather maps were looking better for New York State. The downside of New York was that it was going to be a rustic cabin, and there was still a foot of snow on the ground, and there was an outdoor biffy, and the thought of 5 of us making a trek outside in the night to go to the biffy wasn't too attractive. So Plan D, which is the one we landed on, was to go to Sherbrooke. And so the day before, we found this spot, this pictured here, that was high up on a hill. And there's a church up there that had a parking lot, and we thought this would make a great location. One of the things we remembered from 2017 was we were in an open area, and seeing the cloud arrive was so cool. And we thought, if we can replicate something like that with a good view of the surrounding area, that would be fantastic. And so we found this spot with a commanding view of the valley below. And we came back to it the next day.
So they're having
the
their
day wore on, about
presentations.
300
Oh,
people
Dr.
made their way
Levi
up there.
left.
Um,
I guess a
about
few people
3/4 of
left.
them were locals, and talking to them, it was amazing that many of them had just heard about the eclipse within the last day or two. I thought, oh, I'll go up here. That'll be a good spot.
Those guys will come
And
back.
so somehow, when you're in eclipse mania, you assume that the whole world is, but it's not true. There are lots of people who just
I
learn about it
tell
last
who's in
minute.
this meeting, can I?
We had fun talking to the locals. My French isn't great, but I discovered I was
There's
a
only,
chasseur d'éclipse.
these are all the people that are left.
And
There's
we
just the
got
same
talking
extra ones
everything
from the
from
last time.
Who's
eclipses
this
to
one?
hockey to what have you.
Like that's the
When
host,
the
probably
eclipse
RASC.
arrived,
Leo.
it was 3, you said, Judy?
Yeah, right.
Just
She's been there before.
What
Two of them.
really interested me was once the shadow had sort of moved over, you get this 360-degree kind of sunset effect, and it's so amazing. You get this sense of awe from that, and you can see the lights come on in the town below all around you. There really is this incredible sense of something fundamental has altered in the universe when it becomes night in the middle of the afternoon. And the temperature dropped from about 15 degrees down to about 5 degrees. And this cheer went up from the crowd when the totality came through. And that was our experience, just one of awe and wonder, and sharing it with a group of strangers. Just a remarkable, hard to explain to other people who haven't experienced it. Thank you.
That was lovely. Pamela. Just press.
Okay, so I know a lot of people here travel to see total eclipse. You might have missed what was in Winnipeg. So this is the Winnipeg, what we got to see. I think photo credit goes to Kirtan. He sneaked out of his classroom with his glasses, solar glasses, to view and also to capture few pictures. Yeah, we had clouds, but as Tammy was mentioning, I think it was kind of giving some special effect, and in between it was clearing where you could get to see nice part how moon is eclipsing the sun. And this is at the leaf. I'm with my scope. I don't know, fortunately, unfortunately, couldn't make it work. Maybe because of cloud, it was not able to focus on the sun. Or usually I'm not the one who sets it up. I only view it. both Krishna and Kirtan could not come being a weekday, so they could not, it did not come up. But the best part was being there with so much of people and seeing their interest, enthusiasm, all ages people, and some of them may never had opportunity to have this kind of event to go. So they were really very happy, whether even just to see the like whatever has been arranged, peek through telescopes to see the sun, or even just through glasses, or even just to understand about, oh, okay, this is we have some society for astronomy where there are many things we can get involved. So it was a wonderful experience for me being with that community, sharing their joy and interest was the best thing. And we had a lot of our friends being there. Wing, I think, went. I got his message at 10 o'clock. I'm already at leave, so it was really nice to see. I also thought maybe I'll not disappoint, not showing some total eclipse. This is our Nebraska trip in 2017, where we three are, I think, cloud always kind of place with eclipse maybe. We went one day before to Omaha and we all were ready to view, but I think overnight the cloud the weather changed and they told Omaha is going to have a cloud and we may not view. So we got up early morning and we just started driving west. And I think we traveled some 350 miles and stopped in some middle of the place to view the eclipse. I think that was the best part. Yeah, whether it is total eclipse or partial, I think it always has something new which you experience and enjoy. Especially if you are with a group or community, it makes it more interesting. I think that's the my eclipse experience. Thank you.
So Paul also asked me to present his eclipse experience because he's picking his wife up at the airport and they have something else to do. So as you can see, they went with their 3 dogs down to Texas for the eclipse and everybody was enthusiastic. This thing on the left is somebody cut out on top of a shirt. And he really liked the flowers along the way, all the way, Texas bluebonnets and pink primroses and orange paintbrush. On the side, they had booked an Airbnb in Kempe, south of Dallas. But 2 days before the reservation was canceled. So plan B was instant. They scrambled and they ended up on a golf course at Corsicana, Texas, twice the price. So they arrived on the 7th and got set up. The observing gear got tuned up. I think that's a pinhole camera that Gina's got. And the kids got instructions, including the dogs, got their eclipse glasses on, practiced. So the clouds were coming in and out and there was a lot of panic about weather. But at the last minute, they ended up with a nice group and they took some good pictures, they thought. Clouds parted in time for totality, which is actually, when you look at the hundreds and hundreds of posts on Facebook, it's not that uncommon. And I think Jay was just reviewing a paper for someone who had done a study on that. Turns out clouds and eclipses don't go together unless the cloud is really a certain kind or more than one kind. So he talks about how personal experience is awe-inspiring rather than the photo I can see these. I have no idea what that's going on. It's quite interesting to me how you can change the exposure time so much during the eclipse and to see different parts of the sun, like the sun is super bright. And this is his third contact diamond ring with some prominences. And the next day they had a lovely campground at Malvern Lake in Kansas on the way home, and agrees that he's got to do it again. So thank you very much to Paul and Gina for their experiences.
Getting some problems tonight, it's weird.
There you go. Yeah. So 3, go forward.
Yeah, okay.
And the picture and then the video is the next.
Okay, thank you. Hello, and this is my third eclipse with solar eclipse with my wife. And then before that we planned to, about a year before this eclipse, we planned to go drive to Texas because the weather is good. But however, due to some reason, we cannot leave Canada. So we decided to change our plan just 2 weeks before the eclipse. And then we fortunately, we booked an Airbnb right next to the Lake Erie, a place called Peacock Point, which is besides Port Dover. And thanks to Jay's website with the lake, and the weather forecast besides a lake is a better chance to have a clear sky, and it really does. And then so we end up going to Ontario. We drive to Ontario. We left Winnipeg in the morning of April 5th, and then stay a night in between, and then drive and then arrive our Airbnb on April 6th, very late. And then we set up our equipment and on April 7th to prepare that. And fortunately, when my wife and I moved to Canada, I know some of my university classmates also moved to Toronto, and it happened that they also booked a place to watch the eclipse, just 30 minutes drive by our Airbnb. So we finally can see the eclipse together at my Airbnb place. And I asked our host that they kindly allowed us to have, actually there is more than 20 people coming together. But the Airbnb have a large lawn, so and the host is very nice to accomplish that. So, and yeah, after we met and have dinner the night before, and our classmate, my friends, found out that our last photo before that night is taken 20 years ago, really. So there's a very, very good coincidence. And yeah, I have set up some because I want to watch the eclipse by myself. So I set up some telescope and connected by the computer to automate all the equipment. But I have also set up a GoPro to take a time lapse. So I will share the time lapse and also a photo. This is one of the photo taken right. I think it's right before the end of totality, and I want to share that. I think the resolution is so low. I don't know why, but there is the totality there, and you can see the sky is dark, but as someone said before, there's like a 360-degree sunset all around us. And then number 3, and then the video showed that, yes, this is the video, and it showed the whole process from from the start of partial and C1 to the totality, and down to the C4 at the end of the partial eclipse. And I have slowed down the totality part so that you can see the moon shadow coming from like the right side to come across us, and you can see some of my increments there. And yeah, here, thank you. Yeah, this is the process. There's a lot of clouds actually, but finally it's clear up a little bit just before the totality. Yeah, and then I have slowed down a bit here, and you can see the moon shadow coming right across, and then the left. That's the, and yes, and how to say, during this time, this time I concentrate on watching the eclipse. I didn't notice this effect, but after that, I mean, I process my photos and make it a time lapse. I found out this very interesting and amazing view. So this is what I want to share this time to you. Thank you.
Should I show that again?
Yes. Wow.
That's really cool. Scott, you're next. Number 3.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, I did see the 1979 eclipse. That's my anniversary of becoming an astronomer. I was 9 and I stayed home from school and got to see it, and it was awesome. And I became an astronomer right then. I did go down to see the 2017 eclipse, and that was an amazing experience. Went with my family, and we were in Nebraska and had great, mostly clear skies, a little bit of cloud in the partial phases. But then I work at the planetarium, and people ask questions at the planetarium about astronomy things quite often. And so we had planned an event because I and a couple of the other more senior staff all decided we're going to the eclipse. So we trained everybody else on what they needed to do, and we set up an event, and it was raining in Winnipeg and totally overcast. And we still had 1,000 people show up at the planetarium hoping to see the eclipse. And the CEO at the time said, "You can never go during an eclipse again." She was kidding, and she doesn't work there anymore, so it doesn't matter. But I did decide for a variety of reasons that I wasn't going to go for this eclipse. I was going to stay home and do some of the events. Yeah, I tried that. There we go. I saw totality 5 times during the eclipse. Beat that. I was amazed that the NASA broadcast all of the stuff through Texas, because we thought, oh, it's going to be bad, it's going to be cloudy and stuff like that. And sure, there were some clouds, but we got to see totality through all of those streaming sites. This was on the far side of the leaf from where Michelle and everybody else was. 20 minutes before our live stream was supposed to go live, we learned that the Wi-Fi that was on that side of the building was no longer on that side of the building, and we had to relocate about 300 meters around the other side of the building after all of our gear had been set up and things like that. So I was on the other side of the building, which is weird because we did the October eclipse in that exact same spot and everything worked fine. But anyway, the IT guys swore that there's never been internet there. Anyway, we had to move, and so we had a smaller group watching totality on the monitor, and we also had the live feed. The second half of the eclipse was largely clear. Lots of people got to see the view through the clouds and then through the glasses and so on. And the other side of the building, we conservatively said there was about 3,000 people at any one time. There's probably more people than that, but it was a really successful event. Lots of RASC volunteers. Thank you all for everyone who came out. And the other thing was that 2 days before the eclipse, the province of Manitoba sent out a big social media thing saying, hey, there's an eclipse coming, did you know? And there's no possible way to get classes. So all the schools in Manitoba should stay in their gyms and watch Scott's webcast as the way to see the eclipse. Thank you, Mr. Canoe. I appreciate the support. We had about 85,000 people watching throughout the course of the day at some point, and that's 85,000 computers. Many of them were classrooms or schools. So I have no idea how many people saw the eclipse with us, but it was a huge event. And the only reason that it went so well was because we had so many great RASC volunteers out. And for those of you that were out there, I'm sorry that you didn't get your snacks. The snacks all got moved with me and sat there untouched until the end of the day because of the frantic move to the other side of the building. So I owe you snacks. I apologize, but it was a great eclipse. Thanks for spending it down at the Leaf with us. And I think that's it. We just need to.
I don't think we need to do anything.
I need to. Never mind. Okay.
So I must say that when we were in Mexico, I went online and looked at the Free Press reports the next day, and I was so impressed with the coverage. There were like 3 full pages in the Free Press, plus all of the online people. I was just amazed. So congrats to everybody who came out.
But please move it. You have to press 3 to go forward. Okay.
Well, needless to say, this eclipse was challenging for many people, including myself. So I did the same thing that many people did. They looked at a specific website, an individual who makes a chart, who sits in this room. And right here, that's where Mazatlan is. The higher you go, the higher the risk of cloud. So people who are in the Montreal area and such, they're way up here. Where would you go? So we chose someplace that would be warm at that time of year. And again, a couple shots that you've seen before of our hotel. So there's the gang of us outside one of the restaurants. The fabulous thing about going to a location that has all you can eat, a buffet and drinks and such is wonderful. It really, truly, Tammy, thank you for pointing it out how wonderful it was to be with a group. We didn't go, when I say it was challenging, we didn't go very easily though. I don't know if any of you know the rest of the story. We had booked with Sunwing, Winnipeg, Mazatlan, all great. A month beforehand, they tell us the Winnipeg Mazatlan trip is canceled. Would you like to go on a different week? So no, thank you. But Mike did some research and chased them down. And then they said, well, you can go through Regina. So literally our trip started the day before our normal flight, where we had a vehicle, thanks Jay and Judy, and we drove to Regina. And then we took the trip from there. And the trip to Regina was via Saskatoon. So Regina, Saskatoon, Mazatlan. Anyway, it was wonderful. There's the beach. The neat thing about the day on the beach was that all the chairs were set up. They were actually turned different than they normally were. Normally they're turned towards the beach. They were turned towards where the sun would be.
So that was the best part. In this photograph here, you can see, there's Mark. Here, in fact, is Lorraine. You can wave if you want, Lorraine. She's got binoculars with solar filters. So that's how she was going to enjoy it from that spot. I'm in the background here with my equipment. Now, I was very successful at the Nebraska total solar eclipse, so I got some really great pictures. So this time you kind of want to expand, and what would you like to see? Well, there is this possibility of catching all these planets and such, and then the faint comet Pons Brooks as a possibility. And this image is what they calculated the corona might be like. And now that's outstanding. So I actually decided my equipment would match trying to get these images. So I brought a wide angle telephoto lens for this. And rather than having my telephoto at full 600 millimeters on my camera, I set it down to 500 millimeters so I could capture more of the corona. So I had specific goals of what I wanted. And there it is. There's that 150 to 600 lens that David likes so much. There's that, and here's the camera ready to take that other exposure. There's Mike, there's Tammy. Here's Lorraine in the most comfortable position. She watched it with binoculars, got the best view. This shows what the clouds were like at totality. So you can see it's kind of broken up. There's little gaps in there. Jay always says, well, you know, a little bit of thin cloud's not too bad. This one at least had some holes in it. But here again, you can see that, you know, here's darker spots where it would have been clearer. So that's at the second contact. You can see that the clouds kind of really do muss up the view that you would like to see. This is this is the closest I came to Bailey's beads at second contact. What amazed us was how nice and prominent some of the prominences were. And anybody knows I do the solar work, that prominences are one of the key things that I like to focus on. One of the things that I realized is that even if you're experienced, you make mistakes. So I always bring along a flashlight because during totality, it's dark. Well, I couldn't see my exposures. So these are like 1/8,000th of a second exposures, but they did allow me to capture that one specific and the beads associated with it. So these couple shots kind of turned out because I had a clear patch of sky at that time. And when you notice the pictures, here's that one prominence. Here's where Bailey's beads are. Other images from the Montreal area, the beads were right here, right close beside it. So I can't complain. I felt I was successful at getting at least those shots, but it was an interesting experience. It was challenging.
So I'm going to set the timer too. Okay, so we went to Torreon where it was supposed to be great, and the forecast was a little bit frightening. So we ended up driving most of the way down to the south to a place called near Durango, to a place called Francisco y Maduro. And we saw the eclipse, but there was some thin cloud. People were happy to see us in that small town. Maybe there was 2,500 or 4,000 people at the town. We ended up at the children's playground and in the soccer stadium that had some a wall around it and some benches, bleachers for people to sit in the shade. If there hadn't been that two little prominences on the sun, you can see there and there, this would have been a real problem because the wind was really bad, and it took about an hour of very patient repeated focus to get the sunspots focused so that you could actually appreciate the eclipse. I really learned how to focus that day. So I've cut it down to a few pictures. I've got, this is the thin crescent just before second contact. If you can tell from where you're sitting, this is not a regular line. You can see the edge of the moon up here as maybe a little bit of Bailey's bead formation way up at the corners. These are really not projecting well, but they do kind of match the shadow of the moon on this limb edge of the sun and the long wavy prominences that came out above the sun, above the chromosphere there. These images are very close together, as people will realize when they have seen a totality. The sun seems to move achingly slowly behind the moon for most of the partial phases before C2. And then in the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 seconds, suddenly there is not enough time to slowly take the filter off and get your chutzpah back together so that you can calmly take pictures and appreciate what you're looking for at. But it was a marvelous time. There were people around us. We enjoyed the whole of totality. Toward the end of totality, there was a little bit more thin cloud, but it was amazingly beautiful. This prominence that everybody's talked about, this V-shaped thing, actually has kind of spiral lines in it. And these are different exposures, all within about 10 seconds. So 1/100th. I don't know what that is. Move that. I think it said 1/250th. Just starting to see bits of brightening in the crescent. And then these are the Bailey's beads. And I think it was Stan who said the Bailey's beads were up here in Montreal and they were up here in Mazatlan. So where we were, we got Bailey's beads inside the curve of that prominence. And I just thought that prominence was to die for. I was tickled pink with the Bailey's beads, mostly because I was so excited with the end of totality that I just kept taking more and more pictures as I changed the exposure and managed to catch that totally floored. I didn't really see it, but I got the picture. That's just how it works. For me, the best part of this eclipse was the people. We ended up moving a few times because the wind was so bad. I ended up beside the bus, not the most romantic place to share an eclipse, but there were two families kind of adopted me and they were with me for the eclipse. I showed them through the camera, showed them the screen. They took pictures, you know, they walked around, they came back. I taught them how to take pictures with their cell phones, underexposing all of the images. The school kids came by afterwards and they were cheering with us. It was just marvelous. After the eclipse, we took a quick walk, found the postmaster, got him to cancel our eclipse stamps, one Canadian, one from the 2017 issue of the Americas, and we brought those things back with us and we just had a blast. I just love this eclipse. And I'm going to see another one. And this is my sketch from that eclipse. I try to do it within a couple of days of the eclipse. I do it from what I saw, and I try to put everything I saw in one image. So it's a gamush. It's kind of like a composite, very messy, not in proportion. But I really love doing that. That's kind of my little moment for me to put it all together. Anyway, now Jay.
Where's this mic? There we go. Well, I don't do photography. I'll leave it to Judy.
Press 3 to go forward.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So I've seen enough eclipses. I just watch them now. Although like Gord, I had a diffraction grating and watched the flash spectrum evolve in the 10 seconds or so that it's visible during the start of the eclipse. Anyway, what I wanted to show you was the some of the satellite imagery that came through. Just so you can sort of, I'll probably have to repeat this because it wasn't set up. But here we are from one of the geostationary satellites watching the eclipse go across the Earth. And of course, because it's in orbit just above the Earth, in a geostationary position, the Earth itself stands still and the shadow goes over it. However, there are satellites that are farther out. Come on, sweetheart, do it for me. There we go. Where the Earth is rotating and the shadow is going across the Earth. And the interesting thing about this, the shadow and the Earth are moving in the same direction. So that one of the factors that comes into play in the length of your eclipse is where you are on the Earth, because if you're close to the equator, you're moving faster. And so the eclipse duration is longer. Oops, here we go. Anyway, for those folks in Mexico, I put together these blow-ups for places that that people here went to. Well, I gotta get back on that. Get too far back here. All right, let's see if I can avoid clicking things except that. So for the folks in Mazatlan, you can see the shadow go by. Mazatlan is, and here we are. Whoops, too quick on my fingers here. So you can see the kind of Mazatlan is underneath the cloud cover. I guess the finger does. So it's sort of on the southern edge of the eclipse track. Now there is an eclipse track. Here it is right here. That's the southern edge. And here's the northern. I don't know if you can see them, but the eclipse center line comes down through here faint. So Mazatlan was sort of not in the heavy stuff, but in the lighter stuff just to one side. For the folks in Texas, of course, a lot of people headed out of Texas to when they saw that what was going to happen to this cloud. They have this big area of white, heavy cloud. And you can see it started to break up there in some parts just as the eclipse was coming in. So some people actually in the middle of that cloud, it was low cloud and it was burning off. Down there toward the Mexican border, some of it did erode away. And so you'll hear occasional stories of people who got lucky. And if you look a little farther up into here, you can see the clouds dissipate, the cumulus clouds, and then reform after the shadow's gone by. And that's because the cooling that comes with the eclipse cuts off the energy that causes those clouds. So we get up into the Ontario region. Niagara Falls was very unfortunate because they're up in here, right on the edge. So they would have cleared off right after. You see the line going across, which is the center line. How do we get back to there? I don't know. So you can see that there's a lot of thin cirrus all through this area, but that was a pretty good view of the eclipse. Ontario in this area was mostly clear, although you'll see the cirrus moving in there just as the shadow comes in. So the folks down sort of in the Windsor area would have been a little bit clouded out through that thin stuff. We've seen that in the pictures. A lot of heavy stuff off there to the right though, and that's what covered a lot of the Montreal area. I don't know if anybody went to New Brunswick, but somewhere in Montreal, which is in here. So you can see they were just getting in underneath the levels of cloud there as a shadow. And you can see the sunset line coming in there on the right-hand side at the end of this thing. So I thought you just might like to have a look at some of the things that were happening. I did put together this infrared image of Texas, and that was for somebody who was doing a project, and there's two things to notice here. First of all, there's an awful lot of aircraft contrails here. And secondly, watch the ground here. You'll see a kind of a ghostly image come across the ground, and that's the cooling of the eclipse on the ground. And these infrared images are really nice for showing that sort of thing. Now, I don't know if those aircraft were flying across or the track to see the sun, or whether they just happened to be part of the regular traffic. Nice big thunderstorm that formed off to one side, but it was outside the eclipse track and never really bothered anybody. I thought you might like this. This is the number of times that people searched for total eclipse of the sun on Google Earth. And the maps show you where they searched for it. And you can see that Google Earth doesn't tell you how many it is. It just says, gives 100 value to the maximum number, and everything else is a proportion. But at April 8th, 2024, several million searches for Bonnie Tyler's song there. And then you can see in the maps of the US here in the left and Canada, the heaviest access was more or less along the track of the eclipse. So it has a social impact as well as a visual impact on everybody.
Okay, that pretty much concludes the presentations tonight. I hope you enjoyed this kind of format. It really allows people to talk, and that I think is really important for the club. I really enjoyed hearing all of your experiences. I know some of you are thinking you might head for pizza. I know some of you are thinking you might head out to see if you can see some aurora, or if you can get away from the aurora, if the forecast is anything to believe, I'm not sure. We could probably step outside and see what's happening if it's bright now. I know in Europe they were seeing pink and purple all night, and I expect it's going to be that way if it pans out. So maybe your creative aurora shots will be something we profile next time. Okay, good night and thank you very much. See you next month. Good night, Zoom.